All right, hello and welcome everyone. I'm your host Stefan Burns, and we have a lot to talk about today because there's not just one thing happening, there's not just two things happening, there are a dozen plus things happening. And while I'm not the end-all be-all resource, I do have a pretty good effectively survey of the global landscape. So it may not be an absolute expert on any one thing, but you will get all the info as to what is happening to a pretty good degree here. So we have global conflict erupting right now. As many of you know, new strikes on Iran by Israel and the United States, perfectly resonating with astrological alignments that are active right now, planetary alignments. We'll talk about that. It's really one of the best predictive tools you can use if you learn it with a scientific mindset. We also have Pakistan and Afghanistan in what's known as, like, they're calling it an open war now. So, hey, I'm not big on the war stuff, but we had a pretty good sense that these sort of events were going to unfold this spring because of the planetary alignments and the energies there. So a clock isn't determining like what time it is, it's telling you what the time is. So this is effectively what this tool is for, is when it's 7 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock, right? 7 o'clock is a different character than midnight. So we have a lot happening this spring. We're not even there yet, right? It hasn't even been the equinox yet. We have a blood moon coming up on the 3rd. That will be a pretty big energetic event. We're ready in eclipse season. We have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. That was exactly on the 20th of February. We also had the near conjunction last year, back in July, middle of July 2025. This Iran-Israel conflict is resonating with that, and also some Mars cycles. If we kind of expand our domain out beyond just those two to other events that maybe you haven't heard of, we have a new earthquake swarm occurring in Japan. This is the Ryukyu Islands near Taiwan. And that is looking quite significant. That is, how many magnitude 5s? 5 magnitude 5 earthquakes and 8 magnitude 4 plus earthquakes in the past 48 hours. We also have a very interesting energy burst that's occurring right now near Vanuatu in the South Pacific. We had a magnitude 6.4 earthquake there on the 14th of February. Then just about a week later, actually I think this started even right around that earthquake, but it really got active a week later on the 21st of February. We had a volcano wake up in a very significant way in Vanuatu at Ambae Island. This is specifically Manaro Vori volcano, and that was really active from the 21st of February to the 24th of February, and then 2 days later on the 26th, a tropical storm developed right near Vanuatu. That's now a Category 2 cyclone. That is Cyclone Eruption. So we have this interesting energy progression there. If you go back to Japan really quick and Taiwan, this earthquake swarm is looking like foreshock activity to something bigger. We have been pretty good on this channel with looking at these earthquake swarms, and when they have anomalous activity like this, it usually leads to something much more significant. So magnitude 6.5, even up to magnitude 7 or greater. When this happened back in November of 2025, it was the exact same sequence of magnitude 5s all of a sudden coming on the scene. Then we started to have magnitude 6 activity, and then it culminated with a magnitude 7.6 earthquake December 10th of 2025. So we have that earthquake swarm. We have, as you see here with the solar imagery, a large coronal mass ejection blast off. This is not Earth directed. This will not impact Earth, but showing that there's been a lot of activity from the sun in terms of these sort of plasma filament eruptions and these coronal mass ejections. These sunspots will be Earth facing in just a few days. They're not as big or as active as they were last rotation, thankfully, but basically the damage has already been done, you could say. or the energy loading has already been done. I don't look at the sun as a malevolent influence, so damage isn't the right word, but we already have, we're at the end of solar maximum. We had our first spotless days from the sun just a few days ago. Now, when they track sunspots, they're only looking at the Earth-facing side, so it's fairly archaic. We really should have probes all around the sun continuously, and we should measure sunspots that way, whole sun coverage, but we don't. Regardless, typically if you're getting spotless days, no sunspots on Earth-facing, you're getting close to the descending phase solar maximum. That's not a characteristic of solar maximum. Or if it is, it's very rare and only happens during weak solar maximum. Solar cycle 25 has not been a weak solar maximum. All that energy has come in and loaded up the planet, and this influences the geology, right? This influences us societally. We see more wars and conflict during solar maximums, and we see more civil unrest, and we see more revolutions during solar maximum. So we're in that right now. Literally, the Earth energy system, like the Schumann resonances, which overlap with our brainwaves in frequency and in power, allowing for energy and information exchange. It could be a base layer of consciousness for the collective consciousness and for the Earth as a whole, the super consciousness, that changes in frequency based off of solar activity and solar maximum. It's slightly higher frequency now than normal. It's about 8 hertz. Normally it's about 7.8. So we have a lot of changes that we have been in that are progressing forward. We have this March and April going all the way into May, a lot of planetary energy in the fiery sign of Aries. If we use Western Tropical, a local reference frame based off the equinoxes and solstices, they're basically all at that equinox axis, which is effectively, you know, when things are initiating, when they're getting started. So we're seeing all this erupt at the beginning of that. We have Saturn and Neptune conjunct at the equinox point right now, spring equinox point. So that is likely going to continue. What we're seeing now is probably going to escalate further into March and April. That is also the same time frame of when we'll be moving through the dust trail of interstellar object, 3I Atlas. And 3I Atlas will be forming its closest approach to Jupiter on the 17th of March. So you can see there are so many different things occurring right now. And all the while, you know, another important factor is that there is a financial reset effectively that's occurring. We have gold and silver going absolutely bonkers as a result of the collapse of fiat monetary systems. And they resonate with the Saturn-Neptune cycle. And right now, because it's the weekend, we're probably going to see a huge bump up on those prices starting on Monday, because anytime there's usually conflict and war, precious metals go up like this. Crypto had a big dump down because it's a risk asset, so people like to drop that. Though if you look at the long term for cryptocurrency, in general, when there is a conflict, it'll rise up afterwards in like the month or two afterwards. None of this financial advice, whatever. But clearly, there's a lot happening. So a lot to get into. We also just had a small seismic burst at Campi Flegrei, Italy. Nothing crazy, but a magnitude 3.5 earthquake there, some lesser magnitude quakes. Maybe that progresses further. We had the last big earthquake swarm at Campi Flegrei back in February of 2025. So it's been about a year. And we also have this earthquake swarm right now ongoing at Tenerife, the Canary Islands off the west coast of Africa. Thousands of earthquakes there, the strongest being a magnitude 4.3. That was yesterday, I believe. I reported on that. So yeah, tremendous amount happening. Okay, so let us get into it, and we're going to start with, I don't want to start with the war stuff. It's just, I'm just not a fan of it. We're going to cover it, but we're not going to start with it. Let's start with some of the geo stuff that's happening, okay? Because this is very important as well. Most people are already probably up to date on the war situation, focus more on it, but they should be aware of this too. Here we have the Ryukyu Trench, and islands. This is an extension of Japan. We see here a very strong subduction zone going down, and right near Taipei in Taiwan in general, we're seeing this new seismic burst. So this is just for the past 24 hours, okay? I'm going to click on the 7-day view because we've had other activity just yesterday. But we see just in the past 24 hours, a magnitude 5.1, 5.1, 5.4. That's the strongest in this sequence. That was today, 5:53 a.m. Universal Time, and a 4.6. Now, if I go here and switch this to our 7-day view, we will see that all of a sudden a lot more earthquakes pop up. So we can set this to largest magnitude, 5.4, 5.2, 5.1, 5.1, 5.0. The fact that we have 5 magnitude 5s all closely grouped together is indicative that there could be a bigger earthquake soon to come, because this is not normal as it relates to, let's say, it just being a magnitude 5 and that's it. If that was the case, the aftershocks would be magnitude 4, maybe one of them, and then you get magnitude 3s. Now, if this was like a double sequence, sometimes you get kind of 2 earthquakes similar magnitude. Well, this is 5 of them, okay? And what we've seen quite a few times now is that we get these sort of magnitude 5 earthquake swarms preceding larger magnitude 6 and 7 events. Keep in mind that this is not relieving stress on a fault if there is a magnitude 6.5 or let's say magnitude 7 imminent, okay? Because a magnitude 5 earthquake is 1,000 times weaker in seismic energy release than a magnitude 7. It goes up 32 times per magnitude. So a magnitude 5 compared to magnitude 7 is a drop in the bucket. It's nothing. So it's not relieving stress on these faults, okay? And we saw this back in November, December. I started talking about that earthquake swarm literally the moment we had some 5s, saying, get ready, something big is coming. And people are like, you can't forecast based off of just 5s, and you know, this is hogwash. It happened. We had a 6.4, 6.8. We then had some other magnitude 6 quake activity, then the 7.6 that struck Japan. One of the strongest earthquakes of the year. That was up in this region right here. So that was quite significant. Now we're seeing activity here. The real danger for this is if we were to have a big earthquake, look at the location here, okay? And it's shallow. You'll notice all these are shallow. I mean, the 5.4 is at 35 kilometers in depth. All the others are around 10. This one there, that's showing the Philippines. Let's really zoom in here. All of them are showing 10 kilometers of depth, which is a depth that a lot of frequencies do rupture at, and B, also their default value when they can't calculate a depth. So regardless, this 5.4 being the strongest earthquake, it has the best ability for us to measure its specific characteristics. 35 kilometers, that's not super deep, okay? It's not super shallow, but it's not a deep earthquake that wouldn't trigger a tsunami. Let's say a magnitude 7.5 occurs at the same depth, that could very well do it. Shallower would be better, you could say, for a big tsunami. Not that we want that, but regardless, it's still within that depth range, which could trigger something. So here we see that if there was some sort of big event, it hit the Philippines, Taiwan, Japan, Korean Peninsula, and also China. And we can even, let's do this, tsunami simulator. Let's see if this pops up. That's, I don't know what this is. Okay, it's a bookmark, but it's not the one I want. I should have a tsunami simulator in here. Let's see if I can find it. Because then we can drop basically an earthquake right at that location. It should be this one right here. Ah, okay, so maybe I just type in tsunami lab. Maybe it's been updated. It is in Spanish, so there we go. Okay, so let us drop a tsunami in for that location. Let's hit pause there first. And this is going to be approximate to, well, I guess that's the closest we can get. And let's make this a magnitude Well, they got all this junk on it. Here we go. Let's make this a 7.5, okay? So that's big. May not have a tsunami from magnitude 7.5. It's a little laggy. Sorry about that. But we can drop this guy in right here and hit play, and we'll see that go out. So we can see how it would impact this part of Asia, and really that would be a pretty bad location for something big to occur. Not guaranteed, hopefully it doesn't, but it's something to be aware of because we're seeing the earthquake activity that often precedes these sort of high magnitude events. So that's why I report on it. When we see the signs, we talk about it. If nothing's happening there, I'm not going to make a big deal out of nothing like some people do. You know, they create these fictional things to drum you up, and they'll talk about them for 10 years to create online clout at the expense of their soul. That's not what I'm interested in. One other thing to note there is that there is a history of strong earthquakes, okay? So we see, I just drew a box around just kind of this immediate area for earthquakes, magnitude 7 or greater, going back to the year 1900, January 1st. You see that Taiwan gets a lot of earthquakes, right? This junction, that makes sense. But we do see specifically for right where our earthquake swarm is, which is like right here, basically right in the area, we see this 7.7 occurred 1938 on the 10th of June at a depth of 20 kilometers. So 7.7 is big. That would for sure be one of the biggest earthquakes if that occurred this year of the year. So it's certainly possible. We see that history there. We see some other earthquakes nearby. 8.1, 1910, that's a little further back. 7.2 back in 58. And this occurring in 38 means that we're, what, 88 years away from that now? So it's been a while. It's been a while, and now we're seeing some foreshock activity. So again, no guarantee that's going to result in the, a big earthquake, but this sort of foreshock activity is not a good sign, let's just say, unfortunately. And it's not relieving stress on the fault if a bigger earthquake is, for example, you could say destined, okay? Now let's go back here. Let's talk about Vanuatu now, then we'll get into some of the war stuff. Type in our 30-day significant earthquakes here, and we'll see our 6.4 pop off here, Vanuatu, okay? This is on the 14th of February, so within the month, 2 weeks ago, okay? 2 weeks ago, we had this magnitude 6.4. We see it's the second strongest earthquake of the past 30 days. It was a big earthquake. 10 kilometers down, and let's check out this island, which has a volcano on it that's been erupting. This is a shield volcano, as you can see. And there's multiple kind of calderas here for this, but basically a big shield volcano on Bay Island. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but here it is. Look at the proximity to this, okay? It's right there. This is not that far away. In the grand scheme, as it relates to those pressure waves hitting this magma chamber and causing perhaps things to destabilize, it's all possible. Now, if we go over here, I'm not sure which one it's going to be. I think it's this one actually. Yeah, okay. So here we can see this activity from that volcano. Guys, that's a little troubling. That's February 21st, okay? That has not, it's level 3 right now. There has, this ash cloud's going up like 3, 4, 5 kilometers, quite significant. The winds are carrying it. It hasn't fully erupted yet, and they've noticed a lot of sulfur dioxide here, meaning that the magma is very close to the surface. So we could be looking at an eruption imminently at Vanuatu. It's one of the main places right now I'm looking at from kind of a concerned angle as it relates to volcanic activity. I mean, that is looking really intense, okay? This is not normal. I mean, normal in the geologic sense, and the fact that, these things occur. But in terms of, do we want that to be happening? Probably not. Thankfully, that island, I don't think it's occupied, or there's not that many people there in general. It's not like it's in the middle of a populated Europe or something, you know, like Camp Flagré. We'll talk about that a little bit, but that's not looking that concerning. Now, that was February 21st to the 24th that we really saw activity there. Okay. So that's the progression. On the 14th of February, we had the magnitude 6.4. Then on the 21st to the 24th, we're starting to see a lot of volcanic activity from that island. Let us look at this again. Here's Vanuatu, okay? There's location of the 6.4. Then we have the island, the volcano start to erupt. Well, look at this. Now we have a cyclone here. This is Category 2 Tropical Cyclone Ermil. Let's rewind in time back to 26. Look at this. It formed right here as a tropical depression, then becoming a tropical storm just south of Vanuatu. And maybe if we turn on wind, I mean, I don't know which direction the wind was going, but look at that. It's swirling right into that bad boy. So effectively, we have all this sulfur dioxide, all these gases, ash and everything pumping into the troposphere atmosphere. And then you start to get this tropical depression to form. If we go forward to the next day, we see that it intensifies, and now it's already a Category 2 tropical cyclone. So I point this out, and it's beginning stronger. Here it is now, okay? If we look at our pressure, we see it has a low of 982. Some uncertainty there, but Category 2. Nothing to sneeze about or to joke about. So I'm highlighting this because it's a perfect example of how there is a connection between the different geophysical layers. Because unfortunately, the meteorologists reporting on this cyclone haven't talked about the other stuff. I mean, it's so obvious, yet they're clueless, or they just simply don't know, right? Which I feel like they should, because that's their job. Or they like are belligerent in wanting to not believe the connection, even though this is simply science. I mean, we have an earthquake. You have energy being released from the deep earth. You know, seismic waves propagating out. Earthquakes often, if they're shallow, they are correlated with ionospheric instabilities and total electron content changes of the ionosphere. So there's electromagnetic alterations that occur in between Earth's surface and the ionosphere, right? Changing that global electric flow right in that zone. Then you have that volcanic eruption, that those sound waves from the earthquake hitting that magma chamber or chambers and causing clearly some sort of destabilization. We've seen that many times for different volcanic systems around the globe, most notably Kamchatka back in July and August of 25 with the megaquake there. All of a sudden, tons of volcanic activity along that peninsula. Krashenikov volcano waking up first time in 600 years. Now you get all these gases being released into the atmosphere, and boom, you get a cyclone to form within just days after that volcanic activity really starts to ramp up. So that is a super, super clear example of how this stuff works. So as we have more of these energies come in, these planetary energies are really strong right now. Just in general, solar activity and more of this, right? As we have that continue, expect to see more progressions like this across time, where one thing leads to the next, which leads to the next, okay? And hopefully you aren't impacted by this. Thankfully, you know, people live in Vanuatu. My dad has a friend that lives there. But in general, you know, not that many people live there. Not that many people live off the coast of Kamchatka, Russia. Right, and like hopefully these places, these things stay isolated to zones of low activity. The Ryukyu Islands there, yeah, there's some people there, but not too much. Okay, so, and here's a super thanks from UFO Mark. You know, because of the new activity between U.S., Israel, and Iran, get your gas now. Take this from a trucker of 18 years. It gets expensive really fast. If you have any extra gas cans, pick them up, buy food now, supplies while the prices are low. You know, probably not bad advice. I wouldn't say fill up an open container in your car and drive off. That could be dangerous, but definitely worth having some extra supplies on hand. So thanks for that advice. We'll get back to that with our super thanks. We're going to do a question and answer after this report. If If you have a question that you want answered 100%, unless it's absolutely nuts and crazy, then attach it to a super thanks. I will get to all the super thanks questions. Otherwise, we'll do an open Q&A at the beginning. I'll take some questions from the chat, but generally so busy, it's difficult to address all of them. Now, another thing that's happening this March and April, which is connected to all this, we're going to get into the astro next and then the war stuff, okay, is we had this interstellar object fly in to our solar system, our inner solar systems. In fact, been in our solar system now for years. If you go back, here's 2022, we zoom out, it's out beyond the orbit of Neptune there and Pluto. That's still well within our heliosphere though. The electromagnetic field generated by the sun, which influences all the planets and ourselves. So it's well within that. It's even going back to 2020, here we see it's maybe 50, that's about 50 astronomical units out. So we go forward though to now, it's performed as perihelion. And actually, let's just go back one more time. We're going to go back to when we first discovered it, which was early in July. So we'll just keep it at June 28th. Here's where 3i Atlas was. We discovered it July 3rd, and it's already within the orbit of Jupiter. This is right around when Saturn and Neptune are getting close to conjunction geocentrically. We can see that right here. There we see Earth, Saturn, Neptune. So this is very much resonant with this Earth, Saturn, Neptune cycle. I'll explain that more as we go on, but that is also resonating with all this global conflict that we're seeing. So you can therefore kind of draw a line of energy with 3i Atlas and this global conflict. Now, I don't think 3i Atlas, this interstellar object, is necessarily an agent of chaos, for example. I think it's an agent of higher consciousness and helping us to kind of go beyond this stuff. But that's connected with this all. So here we see 3i Atlas getting close to Jupiter, okay? If we go forward here to the 17th of March, it goes, has its closest approach to Jupiter at less than 0.2 astronomical units away from the biggest planet in our solar system. You can see it right there. And that will be the 17th of March. At the same time as that is occurring, we kind of zoom back out again. Same time as that is occurring, Earth is going to be in the position where 3i Atlas roughly flew through, okay? So if we go here and go forward, we see Earth is rotating forward like this through this area where 3i Atlas performed its perihelion, its closest approach to the sun, back in October and November. Now, 3i Atlas had very interesting dust plume activity. It was very, very active, released a lot of stuff into space. This is dust, this is gas, and this is plasma. Now, a typical comet person will tell you that all that stuff simply gets pushed out, okay? And that the sun's radiative influence only pushes that stuff out. And they're not 100% wrong. There is a radiative effect from the sun where dust grains of a small enough size will be pushed outwards by that photonic radiative influence. But there is a certain size that once you get to as a dust grain, that no longer is that radiative effect stronger than gravity, because you have to consider the sun has a lot of gravity, okay? So you get to a point where solar gravity is more of a force than the radiative effect. You have gravity pulling these dust grains in if they're big enough, and the bigger it is, the faster it's going to go in. So there's not going to be a huge influence from this, I think. Because if 3i Atlas had flown directly through Earth's orbit, I think there would be a bigger influence, for example. But it is in this location close to Earth's orbit, and some of this is going to spiral into the sun. Now, you also have to keep in mind it has its momentum vector like this. But again, gravity is going to pull some of that in. And also, a lot of stuff is being jetted off by 3i Atlas in the opposite direction. So there is going to be this flow in. So we have that transit coming up this month. Here we see February. We're kind of starting to get in that zone. If we go forward here, we see all of a sudden now in March and in April, we are going to be in that zone of influence as it relates to the plasma, dust, and gas from 3i Atlas as it goes conjunct Jupiter, and as we have a huge amount of planetary energies come into our solar system. We have a planetary parade right now. Let me show you that. I have a whole video on it, but let me show you the graphic effectively for that planetary parade so we can talk about that just a tad. This is happening today. Best viewing is basically today for most of the world, though it will be active for a few days. And this is the planetary parade that's active right now. Venus, Mercury, Neptune, Saturn, very close together in the sky, Uranus and Jupiter. And today we also have the waxing gibbous moon leading up to this blood moon coming up on the 3rd of March. All right, so you can see that these planets are all grouped together very, very strongly. You know, they're very close together. Venus is moving ahead. She's going to pass by Saturn and Neptune eventually. Mercury is actually now retrograde. So Mercury is going to start moving back. The sun just set, so the sun's effectively here. Mars is on the other side. So you actually have a whole progression of energy over the next 6 weeks or so, 8 weeks, of Mercury moving back, catching up to Mars, and then they're all still moving forward, okay? But Venus will move ahead. It'll take some time. Eventually, she'll get here and do a conjunction with Uranus. That will be around April 20th or so. But this is the planetary alignment we have coming up. This tonight at sunset is the time to go out and see this. If the sun's already set where I am in Europe, but if you are in the United States, South America, there's still time. You want to be there right at sunset as it's going down. So very powerful energies as a result of this. Now, let's look at our astronomical chart, okay? So we can see this grouping. And this will actually be a Western tropical chart. So it's more of an astrological chart. But let's check it out. Here we see that. This is set forward, and now we're going to talk about some of this conflict stuff, okay? So we have this Western tropical astrology chart set for today. This gives us our local reference frame. 0 degrees of Aries is the spring equinox point. That's March 21st, typically March 20th, March 21st. And then, for example, here the end of Gemini, that is the summer solstice. And then we have, for example, the September equinox. And then we have down here the December solstice. Okay, so we're really tracking the local reference frame of the solar system based off of the sun. If we use constellations, the sky position is always changing. So it's super useful. If you want to track cosmic stuff and comets and things of this nature, that's really the reference frame to use. But the tropical reference frame based off of the equinoxes and solstices is super, super important. I'm actually in Malta right now, and I've been going to the ancient archaeological sites here that go back at a minimum 6,000 years. And actually, I think they're much older just based off of my analysis and looking at them. They're very similar to Göbekli Tepe. This is like Gigantica and various other Neolithic, megalithic sites. They have them all lined to the equinoxes, the solstices. So those are very important markers, energy markers to be aware of that go back, our understanding of that and recognition that goes back thousands of years. So the tropical local reference frame is important in certain contexts, just like the constellation reference frame is as well. Now you'll see here, Saturn and Neptune right there at that equinox degree. The very beginning, Aries is the sign of Mars. It's a fiery sign of initiation. Mars being the planet of war. This is his domicile. And we have them just having moved in there. We see that Venus will move in soon. Mercury is going to eventually move in. The sun will move into Aries. If we go forward here in time, we will see that occur. Let me do this maybe by week. They don't have it by week, that's fine. Let's go here into March. We see that now in March, the sun is in Aries. We have Saturn still there, Neptune there, of course. Neptune is going to be there for 14 years, guys. This energetic influence of Saturn and Neptune is 2.5 years together, because Saturn will take 2.5 years to get through there. Neptune is going to be 14 years. That's like zealous energy, you know, almost like crusader type energy, because there's a spiritual flavor to Neptune, but it's in this fiery, warlike sign of Aries. And now Mars is going to be the ruler of them. So keep that in mind. 14 years of that Neptunian influence. We also see Chiron there. We see Venus. We see that this is the 28th of March. So we have this huge movement of energy through Aries in March. And then if we go forward another one here, we see that the sun has now moved out. It's in Taurus at this point. If we go back a few days, we'll get it so the sun is back in Aries at this point. It's 1 degree per day for the sun. Oh yeah, there's this bug for some reason. We'll stop right here. And then we see that Mars is there. And so we're going to have, and Mercury's there too. So we're going to have this influence of Mars moving through domicile with them there as well. This is the 24th of April. Mercury as well. We do start to get some movement. Here we see actually Venus-Uranus conjunction. Around the 20th of April is when there's a lot of activity as well. That's really a key date and time. Keep that in mind. But if we go forward, we see that we have this energetic influence going all the way into May. It's really around, I wrote it down, it's going to be, what was it, like May 15th or something, that Mars moves out of Aries. I mean, we're pretty close to it. Let's just kind of zoom forward. It's like the 13th or 14th. Mars will move out of Aries. I don't know what this bug is about. They need to fix that. Yeah, so this is now the 20th, 22nd of May. It's like middle to late May that Mars finally moves out. We'll still have Saturn and Neptune there, but at that point in time, late May is when we can probably expect some of this stuff to quiet down. But the point is that we have all these energies moving there right now, and so March, April, and half of May is going to be pretty combustible, okay? Now here's some interesting stuff. Let's, this is just one video of many. We can see that we've seen some attacks. We've had, you know, a lot of strikes in Iran, Tehran. We've also had strikes all across the Middle East, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE. Here's one. I think this is what they said. Bahrain. One of the subscribers has sent me a video because she lives in Bahrain of some of these missiles coming in. Very, very unfortunate. We have this happening right now. And we were able to basically forecast this. Big shout out to Dan Waits at World Astrology Report. He's been talking about this. Here we have Israel's birth chart, all right? And we see Mars there at 28 degrees of Leo. Now Mars was there at 28 degrees of Leo last June, specifically June 14th of 2025. And let me type that in specifically. I'll just show you really quick using our chart that we just had up. So you can, if you want to believe me, well, the evidence will be here. So here we have that. We have, where's Mars? There's Mars. This is again Western tropical frame, 28 degrees of Leo, okay? So that is what was happening June 14th, 2025. Now the reason why a tropical reference frame is useful is because this again is fixed to certain degree points in the solar system. It helps us basically understand the quality of time in any specific moment. Using the constellation reference frame is useful, but there is precession, the equinoxes. So you're not tracking equinox energies accurately using constellations. It's a different tool for different occasions. Here we see Mars at 28 degrees of Leo for the birth chart of modern day Israel. That is conjunct Regulus at 29 degrees, you know, the bright star of royalty in the constellation of the Lion, okay? And well, that was back June 14th. We had Mars there June 14th of 2025. From the 13th to the 22nd of June, you'll remember that we conducted, well, not we, you know, Israel and the United States conducted airstrikes against Iran, that bunker buster and all that nonsense. That happened from the 13th to the 22nd of June. You will also notice with our chart right here. So that was conjunct, okay? So at that time, Mars was conjunct the natal Mars for Israel. And that is basically signaling a new start of martial energy, a new martial cycle of war for Israel, okay? Well, that's the beginning point of that. You'll see here Neptune, Saturn at the early degrees of Aries conjunct, just as they are now, within 1 degree right there, okay? Now let's go forward to today. Check this out. Here we have Mars at 28 degrees of Aquarius, exactly opposite the natal placement for Israel at 28 degrees of Leo. This is the opposition in that martial cycle. No surprise that we had huge events occur today and likely going to continue forward, especially when you take into account that we had this blood moon coming up on the 3rd of March, which is the same day as the holiday, the holy holiday in Israel, Purim, which is celebrating like the victory of Israel over whatever. They're super tied into all this stuff. So that is showing, Dan Waits at World Astrology Report, my buddy, he was talking about this in his March forecast. He dropped that video a few days ago. Boom, it happened. So exactly at that opposition point, we had this happen, and also with this Saturn-Neptune conjunction active. So that is another very important component, all this. Now, if we go here, let's go here first. Here we see solar cycle sunspot number progression going back to solar cycle 21 and conflicts in the Middle East, okay? So this is solar cycle 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. You can measure solar maxims by sunspot numbers. There's a variety of ways we can look at this. We can look at also solar radial flux and solar flare activity, geomagnetic storm activity. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But sunspot numbers are one of the best measures of overall solar cycles and the flip of the magnetic field. And we have that data going back hundreds of years, okay? More so than solar flux measurements and such. Iran hostage crisis back in the maximum solar cycle 21 around the 80s. You'll remember that Iran had hostages of the United States. So this is kind of like USA conflicts in the Middle East, this specific graphic. With Jimmy Carter, then Reagan came in and that resolved. We had Desert Storm here in the early 90s with solar cycle 22 maximum. Then we, United States invaded Afghanistan and Iraq for WMDs. Solar cycle 23, that maximum period, okay? Solar cycle 24, Libya and Syria, conflict there. If you've been to Europe, you know that that was big because there's Syrians everywhere in Europe. Huge exodus of people out of both of those countries. And now we have here solar cycle 25, Iran and Pakistan, Afghanistan. This is new. I mean, it's not a new conflict, but this open war literally just started in the past couple of days, and Iran has been ongoing, but really reaching a pivotal turning point now. So here we see these conflicts in the Middle East perfectly lining up with solar maximum cycles. And we can look at this data here, the relationship between solar activity and spontaneous social processes. So we see that often there are revolutions or these increased periods of civil unrest and conflict. We kind of characterize them as spontaneous social processes during solar maximums, going back hundreds of years. American Revolution, French Revolution, revolutions across Europe, First Russian Revolution, Second Russian Revolution, Spanish Civil War. You go down the list, right? Arab Spring happened with the last one, solar cycle 24. And there are other ones in here as well. We had the conflict with Napoleon around this time. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff correlated with solar activity because it's charging up the overall energy field that we live within, and just in general provokes more activity and kind of erratic behavior from those that haven't grounded and centered their energy, right? If you're not in resonance with the cosmos, which is a more stable energy field, and you just in general, maybe you haven't done the work yourself, like a lot of these global leaders are, ultra narcissists and ego freaks and more, right? they go ahead and push, and the populace is also resonating with these energies, but in a more kind of cohesive, spontaneous, eruptive sort of, we're going to change things, hopefully, for the better activity. So that is a well-known relationship. Here we can see another one. I was talking about this earlier. Here we see Schumann resonance. This is the foundational mode in the vertical electric field. This is the foundational frequency of Earth's naturally resonant energy fields at 7.8 hertz on average, generated by lightning strikes, the global electric circuit, a whole bunch of stuff. This, all this research in general goes back like more than 100 years too. So it's not new that we're learning more and more, but this is well known in certain circles, and it's just not well publicized, you could say. Well, here we see data out of Hungary. They measure the Schumann resonance going from, what was this, May 1993, February 2016. I would love to see the new data that they have. It just needs to get processed, I'm sure. Maybe I'll reach out to the geophysicists there. I've talked to them before. We see that during solar maximum, sunspot numbers go up. We see that the foundational mode frequency increases with about a 1-year delay relative to solar maximum. It takes some time for this energy to enter in to this energy field that the Earth generates that we resonate with our biorhythms and our brain waves directly. So we see that even for solar cycle, this is solar cycle 23, which was stronger than 24. We don't see much of a shift from solar cycle 24, which is weak, right? But we see with 23 that this shift in frequency up about 0.2 hertz was quite strong. And if we go back here, let's check this out again. We see that solar cycle 25 has been closer to 23 in strength than 24. It's kind of a blend of the two, but certainly, if you're getting over 200 for the sunspot count, at least for 1 month, that was August of 24, it's a strong solar cycle. We never broke above 150 sunspots for a monthly count for solar cycle 24. We had, quite a lot of activity in that zone, and in general, the baseline kind of foundation of the maximum period for solar cycle 25 has been higher, certainly, than 24, which is in general kind of under 100. We've been over 100 for sunspots. So that Schumann resonance effect is likely active for right now. This data, being off the screen effectively, if we were to extend it out, if we had that. But that's showing that also this is another contributing factor to these sort of energies. One thing also to note, and well, let's do this first. So here we are. Yeah, here's some of the war stuff. U.S.-Israel timeline of stuff. We can see here going back June 13, 2025, major strikes against nuclear facilities, more U.S. strikes there, and then there was stuff launched on the 23rd, and then after 12 days of fighting, ceasefire takes place. That's Iran and Israel. We see that Pakistan declares an open war with Afghanistan amid escalating attacks. This is set for yesterday, February 27, 2026. This is a big deal. This doesn't look like it's going to be just a small thing, but I think this is going to escalate quite a lot. So that's active right now. We have another report from, when was this released? 27th of February, yesterday. South Sudan at risk of return to full-scale war. The United Nations warns there's renewed fighting, widespread just abuse, and the civil war likely to erupt again in South Sudan. It's certainly possible. People are really looking at that closely. We hope that doesn't happen, but solar maximum, it's very possible. Back in December 2025, Thailand and Cambodia had a border skirmish, and that's not looking like it's probably going to continue. If you have a peace deal backed by the guy who's starting new wars, then it doesn't mean anything. So this was back in December of 2025 when there were missiles launched by both. or maybe not. I don't know whether it's missiles or mortars. I think it was both. Either way, not good, not good at all. And so yeah, these are some of the things that are happening right now, which are not really good. And yeah, the final thing to show you, this is very interesting, is here we have our geodetic map. So there is a system for astrology where they have plotted which astrological sign has domain over what region of the globe. And we see 0 degrees of Aries here for the eastern United States, and you go along, go forward like this. Now, an interesting thing to note is Uranus seems to be connected to warlike activity. Uranus necessarily isn't a planet of war like Mars is, but it's a planet of sudden change, and it can kind of be violent at times. And so a good example of this is that Uranus was located in Gemini, Western tropical astrology, for the American Revolution, for the American Civil War, and for World War II, and it's going to be entering into Gemini this spring, okay? I think it's like either May or June that Uranus, maybe July, that Uranus moves into Gemini, and it'll stay there for 7 years. And we see that, at least for the United States, that lines up with its major conflicts. Again, American Revolution, Civil War, and World War II. Well, if you look here, where Uranus is seems to be connected to where there is a lot of warlike activity, all right? And sorry, this wasn't, this is different. This is 0 degrees of Capricorn. Here is 0 degrees of Aries, if we're looking at the red lines, all right? So if we go to where Uranus is, it's right now at the end of Taurus, about to move into Gemini. This is the Gemini block right there. Well, during this time frame, we've had war in Ukraine, okay? So we see that right there, Eastern Ukraine specifically. We now have war happening in Iran. We see it in that location as well. South Sudan is right in this zone here, right? And that kind of wrapped up in 2018, which Uranus was in this location going back before 2018. It's moving through. We see that it's going to be moving into this Afghanistan-Pakistan zone. It's effectively almost there right now. So you see how where Uranus is based off of the geodetic position seems to be correlated very strongly with where we are seeing martial activity. So it's not necessarily causing it, it's more just like the clock telling you what time it is. Keep that in mind. So as this moves forward, we can forecast, we'll see how accurate it is, but it's already very accurate. We can forecast that we're probably going to see renewed activity between China and India. We're going to see an escalation between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And we're probably going to see more activity with Iran because it's going to be in this zone here for a few years. So this is likely not coming to a close anytime soon. This is probably where the main theater of war will be. Hopefully the conflict in Ukraine wraps up soon, and hopefully we don't get a renewed civil war in South Sudan. And then as we go forward, maybe in 7 years' time, we're really looking at Cambodia, Thailand more. We're seeing that kind of build and build and build. So that is the report. A lot covered today. I know it's a lot of information, but I wanted to go through literally everything and give you the download, because with this information, you can see that, you know, effectively, we're just getting a big increase of energy come in cosmically, you could say. And the Earth is resonating with that. So that's why the seismic activity, for example, is worth noting. The swarms around Japan, Taiwan, the activity around Vanuatu. Expect to see more events like that unfold and build across time. And then you add in all the conflict right now. The big fear, you could say, for a lot of people is that these conflicts are going to start merging together, right? Because there's relationships between Russia and Iran, and you know it could turn into like a World War I scenario. Now, a lot of the astrologers, in their expertise, they're saying that we're going to see this. They've been saying this for months now, years, that we're going to be seeing an increase in conflict around this time frame this spring. and that it's probably not going to lead into something bigger, though it's going to be on the edge of that. So these conflicts probably aren't going to merge together. We hope that's the case, but it's going to get close to that, and it'll be very troubling in that regard. Though I don't recommend being fearful of anything. Do your best to release those low energies, those low frequencies, and to live a self-embodied, self-actualized life. Go where you're treated best. But that is something that is probably going to be a big theme in the public discourse for the months ahead, so it's worth noting. So yeah. So before we get into our Q&A, thanks so much. I've been your host, Stefan Burns, geophysicist, geologist, space weather guy, cosmic bro. I just basically am trying to understand what's happening on the planet, trying to be aware of that. And actually, there's one more thing I wanted to discuss. Let's check this out. This is our precious metals, because this is also resonating with the Saturn-Neptune cycle. Specifically, we're going to talk about silver a little bit. So here we have the price chart for silver, okay? You'll see this big parabolic run up here. This is the recent, and let's change this to a day view here, okay? 1 day. We see that we had this big crash there back in, what was this? The very end of January and February. There was manipulation of the paper markets. So there are bad actors in the space, which is not good. But we see that there was a big drop, but we recovered the price of silver. This is all happening around the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Keep that in mind. If we go back to some of the earliest history of metals as money, like electrum coins, 600, 650 BC, even a little bit later than that, we had Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the early degrees of Aries around, I think it was like 594 BC. We have the birth of the denarius, silver coinage by Rome, 211 BC, with a Uranus and Saturn opposition at these degree points in early Aries and also Libra. And so we have this resonance, and there's other data points too. I've talked about it in a prior live stream, actually a few of them. But if we go back, now let us go back to our week chart. This should allow us to see it. Just barely. Let me do the month chart actually. Here we see, and let's go back to 65. This is a key date. We had the Coinage Act of 65, which mandated that basically silver was not to be used in coins anymore in the United States. Before that, all the constitutional money, because the United States Constitution stipulates that our money has to be made out of precious metal. It was 90% silver. Then the Coinage Act came in against the will of the founding fathers, and basically silver was taken out. Look at the price of silver since then. This right here is 1980. We had a conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter in the early degrees of Libra, opposite this current Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Right in this time frame, we saw this huge run up there. That's from the Hunt brothers, but still it matches up. Then if we go here to 2010, 2011, we see this massive price spike there. We had a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries tropical system during this time frame. Huge run up there in the price of silver. And here's the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. But the key thing to keep in mind here is, if you know a little bit of technical analysis, you see that this is a beautiful cup and handle pattern. And this is a 46-year base right there. So we've just broken out of that. So there's a lot of indications that the fiat system's kind of collapsing. And the key thing with silver is that it is the people's money. Gold is also a fantastic store of value. It has the best properties for that because there isn't corrosion like silver does. But the problem is that the central banks hold a lot of gold, right? They're the primary holders of gold. So when gold goes up, the governments, they actually get more enriched. They don't really hold on to silver. So the best thing, if everyone was to like hive mind at the same time, the best thing we could do would be to acquire silver collectively and have that go up tremendously, because the central banks are not holding silver. And this pattern right here is fantastic for that. It's showing that this is not done. This sort of pattern there really takes us to levels well beyond where we are. So, I mean, we're probably looking at levels like up here. None of this is financial advice, but you don't want to be left out and dumb at the end of the day. So be mindful of that. One thing that you'll find interesting about these conflicts that the President of the United States has been doing is that he's been starting them after trading is over for the week, so that there's not time for the markets to instantly respond. So right now there is a fix on the price until markets open Sunday night for the United States. So probably going to see a gap up. We'll have to wait and see. But now that this has started to resolve to the upside, this pattern is looking quite a bit, it's looking very bullish. So hey, take that for what you want, but the astrology there is resonant with this, indicating really significant changes unfolding and a reworking of the financial system and of all the assets that would actually help us band together, be united. This is the one, because it's not held by the entities that are oppositional to the flourishing of humanity as a whole, which would be, the common people and us uniting together. So take back our planet. Wise words. Just wanted to throw that out there. Not financial advice, but do what you want. I'm not going to be left behind personally. So position yourself accordingly, because these energies are just starting, right? This is really the kind of the beginning of a lot of this energy going forward. So it's not like you're too late. This pattern just broke out, something to be mindful of. And there's historic astrology that goes back thousands of years supporting this. And we were talking about this, way back here and beyond. So keep that in mind. So with that, let's get into a question and answer. There's also, just with the silver stuff, it's huge in industry in terms of data centers and chip production and battery technology and solar voltaics is already a structural deficit. It's not going to be changed anytime soon. Silver is a byproduct of most mining. It's not intentionally mined typically. So it's going to take years for supply to catch up to increasing demand. So there's also tons and tons of tailwinds and very few headwinds. I can't think of really any headwinds. And one more thing to mention there is if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So keep that in mind too. At least get some coins, maybe. Just get some coins, some constitutional junk silver. It's 90%. Worst case scenario, you can start trading coins with people. Make sure you have water, have a garden, grow your own food if you can. Things of this nature, very, very important. So we'll get into the question and answer. Trust and have faith that you will be protected. Everything will be well. That's at least what I believe. But also be willing to change and adapt as needed. The universe will take you most of the way there, but it's going to ask for a little bit. Okay, it's going to ask for your cooperation, maybe 10%. So God's holding his finger out. It's up to us to do that final little touch. And a super thanks from Red Spirit 76. I don't watch the news for weather. I watch the one and only, the best weatherman in the universe, Stefan Burns. Thank you so much for the super thanks, for your support. And again, UFO Mark II with some wise advice. Be smart about it. Don't be filling up open barrels and sloshing around everywhere. Don't be stupid, but get some extra gas canisters. That's probably a good thing to do. And can we use tonight to our advantage as one force? Something I did yesterday is I just did a short meditation. I'm in Malta, and there's all these ancient Neolithic sites there. I went to one that is not UNESCO heritage site. Most of them, are now like dedicated archaeological sites. This one's just like an open field, but you can see the big megalithic stones that are buried. And I went there, I did a meditation, and the download that I got was it was universal energy attunement. And I felt so good after that meditation. It was about 15 minutes long. But find some time where you're extending your energy beyond the earthly domain, beyond even our solar system domain, and attune to that universal energy, that frequency, because that is our baseline. If we're not connected to that, you can build up all these non-coherent energies within your body. So with the planetary alignment that you have going on, that's just kind of like a little stepping stone a little bit further out. So perform a universal energy attunement, and ideally, you know, more often than just once every blue moon or blood moon, right? Maybe every single day. You can do multiple times per day. It was pretty much right there ready for me. Now, I was sitting on like an energy vortex created by the ancients thousands and thousands of years ago. But the universal energy is always present, omnipresent. So you can connect to it anywhere, just maybe finding a space away from man-made electromagnetic energy and radiation and noise will help you connect to it a little bit faster. So that's a smart thing to do. Underwater Panther, thank you for the super thanks. March 2nd is her birthday. Have a good weekend. Happy birthday to you. I wish for it to be well. Tweety Bird, thank you for the super thanks. Beth Costello, her birthday is 11/11. I have a huge mission to end the Santa Claus psyop. My site is Slay Santa. Thank you for your super thanks. People can check that out if they want. If someone was going to throw a Hail Mary, best time would be when the window of the collective, when would be the best time window for the collective to really hone our energy? I would say it's now. We're in it. So this is the time really for us to be purposely choosing our path forward, taking our sovereignty back, making our decisions, standing up for what's right. We're at the beginning of that. You know, with what's happening with the e-files and the PDFs that run a lot of the governments and more, right? It's time to stand up and basically say enough is enough. I'll do what's necessary to protect myself, to protect our kids, you know, the young ones on this planet who are helpless against this. So now's the time. There's no more waiting. There's no more, oh, wait, like 5 years. Like, now's the time. Do it, folks. It's time to do it. Charlie Pilks, can you kindly explain the X-flare scale / chart? It looks like it doesn't measure big X-flares. How do you measure, say, an X100? Yeah, I can quickly talk about that. We'll look at our solar activity recently. That big coronal mass ejection that we're looking at right now did not show up really on our X-ray flux chart. So here we have it, and basically what we're looking at is soft X-rays being emitted by the sun, Earth facing. We use this to measure flare intensity, and so we have different categorizations. We have A, B, C, M, and X. And M-class flares are the second strongest category. X-class flares are the strongest category. And each one of these is an order of magnitude increase. We see our watts per square meter there. And we see this is a 10x jump each time, logarithmic scale. So when you go from a 1.0 M-class flare to a 1.0 X-class flare, that's a 10x increase in that energy. And then if it's a long duration event, it can be a huge multiplier on the overall energy release. So this is an X10 right there. And if we were to have an X100 flare, it would spike out up there, which would be the biggest flare on record. We've never had a solar flare measure above X50 as with modern equipment. So maybe it happens, maybe not. We'll see. We'll have to wait. Hopefully not. Probably wouldn't be a good thing. But maybe it's the wake-up call that we need. So, you know, it's like the Chinese proverb, like something happens, we'll see. We don't know. Angelic Spiritual Warrior, we're in the middle of an unseen war. World events are a distraction. Can you explain the unseen war on our energy and what it means to be sovereign? Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of energy in the material, but other dimensions as well, lower and higher frequencies. So the more you pay attention to your internal state, the more you'll start to feel these different energies that are connected to you, okay? And a good channel to check out if you want to learn more about that would be David Farrell and Bella with Quantum Planet World at QPW. They have a YouTube channel. I've done some interviews with them, but they'll talk a lot about these different dimensions of energy and kind of what's happening there. They have a new video they just released talking about this. So that's where I would go, Davin and Bella with QPW. Really fantastic people, and they are very much in tune with what's really happening on this planet. And they'll educate you over time as to all the different energies that are connected with the collective and perhaps with you, and how to clean that up and more using different herbs and things of this nature. Mary Prince, thank you for the super thanks. I will do my best. I wish you all to stay safe as well. And Spida1221, thank you for never letting the discouraging comments get to a point where they prevent you from posting videos. I've seen the pushback. Thank you so much. Yeah, we got to keep doing our best to move forward. And there's always going to be oppositional forces. It's good to be mindful and self-reflective. At the same time, there are certainly some forces out there which are just seeking just to push you down, trap you in a box, keep you contained. That's really kind of one of the big things happening right now. So be self-reflective, keep your ego and everything in check, stay open-minded, but we got to move forward. We got to progress forward. Thank you for keeping us in the loop. Thank you, Luna, for the super thanks. Hilljackal, thank you for the super thanks as well. Much appreciated. Drew Tubios, Cosmic Bro, thank you for the herb coffee. Many thanks from San Diego on a very special, crazy day. You guys are having a huge heat wave right now. Enjoy the heat. It is a little odd, but go out, enjoy the sun while you can. Thank you for your super thanks. And Bolanos is asking, am I Cancer? Are you single? I do have a placement in Cancer with Western. I also have Cancer placements if you go by True Sky position, and I am single. But we'll leave it there. Thank you for the super thanks. Dark Cloud, Uchiha, with your theory on conjunctions, does it include entrainment delay? Not sure what you mean by that. I'll just give that a quick Google search. I mean, I know what entrainment means, but there's a lot of new terms and phrases being thrown out now that people are creating. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by entrainment delay. Google saying entrainment delay refers to the time it takes for an organism's biologic clock to synchronize with environmental cues such as light and temperature, or in this case, planetary alignments. So yeah, there is that factor as well. These things don't happen the moment of the conjunction. Sometimes they kind of do, because you have this lead up of energy as well. But because of this factor, consider just in general always a little bit of a tail. It's like a bell curve, okay? So there's a bit of a tail to these things as well. Keep that in mind. Thank you for pointing that out for us and keeping us mindful of that. And that can be at the collective scale, the individual scale, right? Just in general, it's good to apply your consciousness and mindfulness towards yourself and not just get lost on doom scrolling stuff. I understand there's a lot of things being thrown at us right now, but be very mindful of the energies that exist. And when I was looking at the regular chat, I wasn't seeing any questions come in. I see one here from Clapdash. Is Earth's magnetic pressure of Earth's magnetic fields connected to the solar wind pressure? If yes, how much are they in sync? What parameters are affected by this connection? Well, the solar wind, it has it's basically made up of plasma. It will push on Earth's magnetic field. This doesn't necessarily create magnetic pressure. There's nothing really. There's no real magnetic pressure, but there's the force of the magnetic field. And so, yeah, when you have geomagnetic fluctuations, that's affecting us. And there's a huge synchronization between Earth's magnetic field and the solar wind. Overall, the solar wind influence on Earth's magnetic field is like a minor perturbation, okay? So unless you have a huge Carrington event impact, and even then, a week later, Earth's magnetic field would be fine. It's not like a Carrington event is going to cause the magnetic field to collapse. A super flare wouldn't cause the Earth's magnetic field to collapse, but it'd be a huge shockwave impact. Things would go nuts in terms of our circadian rhythm, biologic clocks, and all this stuff. Maybe people go a little wacko, probably, but Earth's magnetic field is pretty stable in the grand scheme. So I wouldn't look at the solar wind as being all important as it relates to these magnetic fluctuations or connection to them, but it's certainly worth paying attention to. So something to keep in mind. Um, Another important thing, Mercury is in retrograde now. We will have a Mercury retrograde cazimi coming up, so keep that in mind. I'm not sure exactly what day that is. We can look it up really quick. Let's see what we got here. We do see that Mercury is getting close. Here we have our solar system scope. You see Mercury here. Actually, that coronal mass ejection that we've been looking at did hit Mercury, right? Because we see our alignment here with the Earth, like that. And again, if I turn this off, look at the direction that's going. So that is hitting Mercury during Mercury retrograde. So expect there to be an enhancement of these communication themes around communication and information dissemination. Remember that we're in the age of AI now. They can make a lot of fake stuff. Keep that in mind, which is why I'm here on camera with you every single day, basically, right? Like I have my green screen right here, and I don't do voiceovers and just show you the screen because it's easy to fake that. Like, you know, I can pull up my eyelids and do crazy stuff. You know, AI is not going to do that. So this is me showing you I'm a real person. But if you go forward here, we will see that conjunction, this cazimi with Mercury, inferior conjunction. That will be on the 7th of March. So we have this blood moon coming up on the 3rd, and then we have Mercury cazimi inferior on the 7th. So that could be a heightened energy moment as well. As a result of that, we see that we have this Earth, Venus, Saturn, Neptune alignment at that time as well. So there are, and even here, a little bit of a Mars, Venus, Jupiter alignment. So look at the beginning of March for there to be an increase in energy based off of the planetary geometry. Worth taking note of that. I'll take one more question now, and then I will sign off. And another one from Clapdash is Earth flat? No, the Earth is not flat. That's easily proven multiple ways. Was the moon landing real? I do think it was, though I'm not like 100% convinced by any means. There's some weird stuff there, but I do get the sense that it was a monumental human achievement. And the planetary alignments, honestly, are what kind of lean me in that direction, because we had a historic Pluto-Uranus-Jupiter conjunction in 1969 as that was happening. So that's really one of a kind and perfectly speaks to those sort of monumental human achievements technologically and more. So that kind of just pushes me a little bit more towards the moon landing is real camp. Again, you know, I'm not saying definitively yes or no, because there's some weird things, but there is, I think there's more evidence for it being real than not. And I think the fact that we haven't been back since is a tragedy. And it shows the influence of politics on science and more. So, you know, there's a whole bunch of wacko stuff there. But as regards to the Earth being flat, the Earth is not flat. Every sunrise and every sunset proves that the Earth is not flat. And if you really want, you can get a GoPro and get like a weather balloon and send that son of a bitch up. And you'll see the curvature of the Earth, okay? So anyone can do that if they want. You may have to look into, getting permission to throw that thing up because of air traffic and more. But yeah, the Earth is not flat. There's so many ways to prove that's not the case. So with that, we will sign off. Thank you all so much, everyone, for being here. Wishing all of you the best. Just a polite reminder that the discount sale right now at earthevolution.com/store is still active till the end of today, February 28th. You can use the code BeTheLight, all one word, for 7% off. You don't run sales that often, so if you've been wanting to pick something up, now's the time to go there, earthevolution.com/store. Let's all do a quick prayer for a resolution of these energies and to promote peace on the planet, to do a universal energy attunement, just to release any non-coherent energies, to bring in new cosmic consciousness that's going to ascend us higher and further and faster, to bring us into resonance with each other, to heal this divide that has been sown by the bad actors on our planet, so we all can enter into coherence and resonance with one another in love and peace and understanding, to put our divisions aside and to embrace our divine unity with one another. We are not separate. We are all one at the end of the day. Thank you all so much. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you all very soon.